It's Athletor. Thank you, Michael Gray. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain about a thing, except for, everything.
I'm trying
So,
to change the world.
well, here's the thing, all right? I I love I love Kansas City. And by the way, this is for those of you that are just getting this now. It's Tuesday after NCAA, so we are fresh off of an NCAA tournament in which the Cornell Big Red took second place. That's pretty impressive, but we'll get there. Um, I loved the transportation in Kansas City. I loved the food in Kansas City. That little bar area right next to the venue was great. The venue was great, but I'm never going back to the NCAA tournament. It's too much. It's too much over 3 days. I can't even fathom the roller coaster that it would be in the corners. So why don't you try to sum that up, Mr. Gray?
Uh, um, no, I mean, I'm still hurting. I'm
Yeah.
still, I'm still hurting, right? No, I mean, I think it really kind of depends, right? So 2 years ago, we didn't have like a bad round per se. We just had like some landmines in there where you take some losses, you know what I mean? But you don't really get down on yourself. Like after session 3 this year, I was like, this is bad, right? And then we just clawed ourselves out and bonus pointed pretty much the rest of the way through, which was really impressive, right? So I mean it's tough. It's tough because like some tournaments go like that, right? Where you're just pretty steady and most of your guys are wrestling well and maybe you pick up a loss because you wrestle a tough bout
You
against
guys have
somebody.
had CKLVs like that, where it's just like kind of chugging along, chugging along, chugging along. And not that you want to equate that to the NCAA tournament, but just for intensive purposes.
I mean, that's a really good comparison. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times in Vegas, you have some teams that are, or most of the guys, right? You'll have 15 ranked guys, right? So,
Mhm.
but no, I think the big thing for trying to keep your sanity during it is trying to do the best you can to maybe go stare at a wall in between rounds, right? And
Mm.
turn your brain off, right? So,
What does that look like? Seriously, like I mean, you
oh,
say
like
stare
so,
at a
like
wall.
in between rounds, like so my wife and my little one, Abel was there this year, right? All my kids essentially get one free pass when the year they're born. They go to national tournament because they need to eat,
Yeah.
right? So so yeah, no, in between rounds, it's just like pick up, and the food was great, like you said, right? So we just
Yeah.
pick up a sandwich, go to the room, and just put your feet up, relax. Not necessarily try to do any scouting or anything during that time. We got over to the arena maybe like an hour and 20 minutes before the session starts anyway. So kind of get your game planning and then. So the time in between sessions is just really trying to turn your brain off, relax, do the best you can to not think about wrestling, I guess, and just really decompress because you're going to be jacked back up again as soon as you enter the arena, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's challenging, right? So um, it's emotional because I mean the kids will say it, right. It's easier to be an athlete, right? When Yanni now is on the other side of it, obviously wasn't in the corner, but was really
Going
invested,
through it. Yeah, he's going through it.
super invested, right? And
Yeah.
with that investment comes fatigue. With that investment comes a lot of fatigue, and it's a lot of times it's easier to be an athlete because you worry about yourself, and then you leave the arena and you watch your wrestling and you care about your teammates, but it's very individual based, right? Whereas when you're a coach and you have, I will say it's tougher because we had all 10 athletes, right?
Yeah.
We had 9 because Cornell couldn't compete, right? But we had, when the more athletes you have, the more of an emotional roller coaster you can be on as well, right? So that's a blessing and a curse also because you have more opportunity to score points, but then you have more opportunity to be
Heartbroken.
emotionally damaged.
Emotional damage. Yeah, that's one way to do it.
Yeah,
What does
yeah.
it look like for your athletes though? What do you tell them to do between rounds to
So
shut
our guys,
their brains off?
our guys leave immediately. So I know other places do certain things. Our guys, as soon as they wrestle, whoever's in the weight class, beside them. So like Unger and Vito, boom, they're out of there. 41 and Fernandez are out of there. Ramirez and Shapiro, boom, they're out of there. So we get, and that's what's great about like this year because they can walk, right? So
Yeah.
we would drive them to the venue, obviously on the front end of every session, and then on the back end, they would just get out of there, especially day one, right? Day one, wrestle and leave. So that's kind of.
Yeah. And do you have like a set checklist that you kind of talk them through for decompression? Like Shapiro seems like a kid that might need some hand holding once in a while, in that regard.
Yeah, no, we have a great support staff. You know what I mean? So our sports psych travels with us. Our physical therapist travels with us. Physical therapist slash, massage therapist. Our, obviously our trainers there with us. We have a bunch of managers that are there to take care of, the laundry and the groceries. And so our guys are really treated like professional athletes in the sense that they just show up prepared and they do their job, and then they go back and relax and decompress. What it looks like, it's not necessarily I guess a protocol per se. It's just the biggest thing for me, what I preach to our guys is do what you've done the entire season. Please don't change a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So if you watch anime in between rounds for, Easterns or for this duel, when we have back-to-back duels, didn't do that again. Right. Just continue to do what you have been doing. And that's really, really important. Keep your routine. Don't change anything. And that goes with everything, right? That goes with training. If you haven't ran all season, why would you decide to run the week of NCAAs to get you in better shape? It's never going to happen. You're not going to get in better shape, and you're just taking yourself out of your routine. Stay in your routine, right? So routines are big for us. We do pre-match routines for weight cuts, on the mat. I know a lot of schools let the kids go free. Our guys, they love it. They want it, right? So we put them through, tumbling and things like that. And then we put them through areas of concentration before weigh-ins, and I think that a lot of schools maybe don't do that, or the kids have some more freedom in that regard, but our guys love that, right? So there is some routine, but for decompression, back to your question, in between rounds, not really, just kind of do what you need to relax and take your mind off of it.
Stick with the status quo. Got it. Okay. That said, though, you mentioned earlier, you and the staff get to the venue, 80, 90 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line to me between encouraging the status quo, which is like, okay, you're never going to teach, you're never going to ask a Meyer Shapiro or a Vito Arujau to be a defensive wrestler.
Yeah.
But you also have to be cognizant of opponents' X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So you said that there's game planning. How many things do you pick out to focus on, whether it be through your staff or directly to your kid?
One or two things.
One or two things. And you just like,
hey, his go-to is going to be a knee pull, so be ready for it.
Right. And that's it. And like,
and honestly, like we front ended too. Like, so when the brackets came out, the first two rounds, like, you're definitely going to have this guy, and I think this guy will win. If he doesn't, then great, we'll be ready for the other guy, right? So not trying to look too far ahead, but just having an idea of what it's looking like. And you don't even have to say like, oh, this for this guy. It's like, we're just going to defend single legs today. This guy happens to shoot a good single leg.
Yeah. Because again, you're half psychologist.
Oh yeah, more than that.
60%. It's like
Sure, right? So I think the big thing is, it's like, hey, this guy's good in this area, right? He's good here. So be ready to wrestle there. I know that your stuff's better than his, right? We believe that, but just know this is where he wants to wrestle from.
He's right? So I get that, and that makes sense, right? Because you as a coach, you can be inundated with the amount of things.
It depends on which guy too. Like Yanni, we could stage the whole match.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, all right, you're going to circle this way. He's going to go here. You're going to roll wrist. You know what I mean? If you can't roll the wrist, then you probably look for this. And certain guys are like that, right? But like Vito likes to just be in a flow state. So it's just like, hey, With Vito, more than anything, it's mid-match. So it's just like, hey, you go out of bounds, snap, look over here. He's sing legs there. Look for that. Go. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or Shapiro, it's just like, go be you, buddy.
He's such an interesting case to me, man. He is such an interesting case because there are times, and like in a very different way, but like Austin Gomez is, I would have the same conversation with and plan to very soon. You don't always have to swing for the fence.
Oh, and I think that's ultimately where we well, I think where Meyer made adjustments and made a lot of progression this year in the
Mm,
sense that he settled into his baseline stuff, and then when the fur gets flying, then use your gifts, right? But
mm,
going out there and hammering your knee pull, that's fine, that's okay. It doesn't need to
yeah,
be some beautiful sight of technique, and it can just be a good classic single leg and in college wrestling, it's all 3 points, right? A takedown's a
yeah.
takedown. So it doesn't need to be anything crazy. But if the wrestling happens and you fall into these positions, then by all means have at it and let it rip. Right. So I think the big thing is having an idea of where you want to wrestle, and then encouraging and celebrating him going off script at times to do what makes him unique.
That's a different, that's hard to do on a case by case basis because it might look different for Cardenas and it might look different for Yanni.
Because everybody, we don't train it or teach anybody, as a well, we have obviously group practices, right?
Sure.
But we
It would be terribly inefficient if you didn't.
yes, right. But we instruct individually, I guess.
Yeah, that's tricky, man. That's really tricky because like it is so hard to define Cornell's style of wrestling. Almost doesn't exist. Like the two most yeah, the two most successful guys to ever come through your program, Yanni and Kyle, they couldn't be more different.
Yeah, for sure.
And so is that something that you picked up from Cole, or is that something that like as a kid that you kind of gravitated towards? Because even you and your brother are different, like way different.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think no, I mean we always like beginning of the year, like most programs, right? You're hitting your base drills and you're doing those things, but we're not afraid to branch out second semester and really have a lot of individual work.
Mm,
Um, and I think some programs, maybe there's fear of there becoming individuality and having lack of team, right? But we have so much faith in our culture and the ability for our guys to be great teammates for each other that we don't necessarily worry about that, right? So many times, throughout the week, it's like, all right, the 10 starters, you guys are going to have a practice whenever your schedule allows you to, with the coaches. And instead of saying, all right, hit your go-to, it'll be like, hey, hit your knee pull to this side, hit your high C to this side. So it's just more individualized in the sense of you're getting what you need specifically, as opposed to, a blanket type thing where it's just like, we're going to try to just cover everything, and, it won't be as specialized. Right. So that's kind of what we do every Thursday. We have our individual workouts. And our schedule this year was a little different. So with Friday, Sundays. So a lot of times we were doing Tuesday and Thursday in individual in the second semester.
because you can.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that for us, it's just sweat equity, right? Um, I'm here to help these kids in the sense that they're paying my salary, right?
Mhm.
Because they're putting the work in, they're doing the job. So why am I trying to make them fit into a box? We're going to practice this time and this time because that's how we've always done it, and that's just the way it goes. It's like that seems to be very, very, very inefficient. So
Buddy, does that uh Mike, you and I have known each other for a long time. And I'm gonna put this as as buttoned up as I can, but I could jersey it up if you need me to. Um that's not what we grew up with. That mentality is not what we grew up with. It was, for the most part, hard line, hard ass coaches
Yeah.
saying that's I don't think it works in 2024. I just
But
don't.
I mean, when I was growing up, right, Passac Hills for Rich Santoli, 5 days a week, you wrestled live for 90 minutes situations. And then you wrestle on the weekends and, just try to go beat the brakes off somebody. Right.
Right.
I mean,
So
that's,
why, let me rephrase.
yeah.
In your estimation, why is the person like you who is catering to the athletes and having more success in 2024?
Because, I mean, I think that, well, a few things, right? I mean, I think that it's hard to make that work now with the kids in general. You know what I mean? Just grinding them all the time. And I mean, being at Cornell, Cole always did a good job of making sure that the guys were peaked right and had individually what they needed. And then the athletes I've dealt with, right? Just this idea, and I think what it comes down to is like being a little more equal in a good way, right? Like, hey, I'm not in there, dude. So Yanni, like, yeah, you're telling me this doesn't work. I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. I'm telling you to do this. You're like, it's not working because of this. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. The same thing with Kyle, right? Like, I'm not just some dictator in the tower. Like, you got to hit high C's. It's like, well, I'm trying to. I'm clearly not trying to lose, and I'm clearly trying to hit the high C. It's just not working. So let's talk about it and figure it out, right? So I think there's a lot of, you know, give and take in the athlete coach relationship at Cornell. Obviously, there's discipline, right? And there's lines and all those things. There's tons of respect.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
But when we're talking about techniques and getting the most out of ourselves and positions and all these things, like there's got to be back and forth. There's got to be feedback. There's got to be, a great trusting relationship. I really believe that. And I think that I was lucky to, wrestle with Kyle and then, coach him a few years. Right. And then with Yanni, I had him and then Mark as well. Right. I had Mark my second year coaching that really, it was the toughest situation and I would think the most beneficial situation for my coaching career, learning
Why?
because it's your own, your own
Yeah.
blood, right? So, the desire and the want for him to do, to succeed more than you succeeded, right? It's
Sure.
so challenging to deal with the emotions, right? And that's what that taught me, right? Dealing with the emotions of, of somebody, working hard and maybe not reaching their goals or whatever it might be, right? It becomes so tough to bottle those up and stay cool and continue to, move in the right direction when all you want to do is just, freak out on the ref or, on your brother, right? This emotion is the answer, I guess, right? There's more emotion, I think, when you're coaching your brother. And I imagine it's challenging when you're coaching your son as well, right?
Not easy. I don't know what you're talking about though. I'm never coaching my kid. But here's the thing though. What you're saying, there is an implicit um respect and trust, and like, so all these things kind of are preset. So does that have to start in the recruiting process? Do you
Yeah.
have to go like, hey, I need a kid that is going to be X, Y, and Z, so that we can get to the point where I can now take criticism as a coach from a person who I trust?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a little bit of everything, right? So we've had guys that are not, we'll say these artists on the mat.
Sure.
But they've been great too, right?
Yeah.
Uh, like I think of a kid like Dom LaJoy, right? He was with us for 4 years and finished up at Stanford. He is a wonderful kid. He'll be the first one to tell you that he wrestles within the box and
Mhm.
wants to be told how to wrestle, right? It's like, all right, Dom, you're gonna go front headlock, head in the hole. You're great in that position. You're gonna, you're gonna pull on the guy for the first 2 periods, and you're gonna let your offense go in the third period or whatever it might be, right?
Sure.
So that works too, right? So whether you're some phenomenal technician or whether you're a guy who's, we'll say, more rigid and baseline, the only thing that matters is the ability to, have trust and ultimately the ability to want to progress technically and athletically and really have an open mind to this idea of progressing technically. Right. That's what's
Okay.
really.
Yeah, that's easy to say though, Michael. That's easy to say. But how do you, as a head coach, and by the way, you've done a phenomenal job. How do you, as a head coach, look for if progress or wanting to progress is
Yeah.
the actual virus, what are the symptoms that you see in young athletes that show you like, hey, this kid really takes progression seriously?
I mean, when you're, I mean, most of these things now, you're going to camps, right? Or you're going to a clinic and you see the kids, or you have RTC days. These kids
Mhm.
are here, like, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? How are we doing this? Right? They're asking questions, right? So
Mm.
that's it, right? They're just literally intrigued. Or you're recruiting the kid and they're sending you technique videos. Here, this clip of this guy from Russian nationals, right? Obviously, there is you know, there's a type, right, for Cornell, right? Obviously, we have a lot of guys, right? But I do think, our guys that are achieving at a super high level, there's a type, right? Even Foca, right? Foca is different than Shapiro, but he's still very unique,
Oh yeah,
right?
for
Very, very,
sure.
very, very unique, right? So these are guys that are just they find it fun. They find the challenge of innovating, right? That they find that to be as important as training, we'll say,
My
right?
son, I was kidding before, obviously, about coaching my son, but it does get frustrating because like he needs to get
You want to hit all.
what's that?
He needs basic, but wants to hit all the cool stuff.
Yeah, like bro, I'm like, you need to get a knee pull single to your with your right hand. You have to. Like you have to find a way to a leg. You have to. He's like, why? Like I just grab him by the waist and throw him over my head, right? I'm like,
Like, but if
Bruno,
he grabs my wrist and I wrist duck him, it's an attack to the right side, so that's good too, right? Oh,
I guess it's
oh.
fine. Yeah, he's driving me nuts right now. He's like,
No, I mean, the biggest thing for us, like I said, when we're recruiting kids, is just their overall interest in the sport, I guess, right? And do they watch film? Do they have any clue who that
Shakiv.
off is? Like, who
Mhm.
are they? Are they historians a little bit? Like those types of things, like, or they just want to go out there, and that's not a bad thing either. They just want to go out there and smash people, right?
Dude, it's funny that you say that because now that I'm looking back on it, there was no way that Knox didn't go to Cornell because he would show me text threads with him and Shapiro just geeking out on all kinds of technique.
Yeah.
That's yeah. So I guess in the long run, it was kind of meant to be. Joel, do you want to jump in now that you got your camera working there, bub?
Yeah, I'm curious what the process is of getting to that conversation of like, hey, this isn't working. Is that, a wrestler coming to you being like, hey, I'm having a problem? Or is that you going to them with kind of like an open-ended question to be like, hey, it seems like you're struggling a little bit here.
It's both, honestly. You know what I mean? It's just like even in practice, it's like, all right, well, that's not working. And as forward as can be, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. It's like, well, that's not it, buddy. We got to fix that.
Something tells me you don't have a problem being forward.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, that's what our guys sign up for. That they appreciate that, right? And the same the other way. They're like, well, that's not it either, coach, because you're not feeling what I'm feeling. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
put me in the position. Let me feel it. Let's talk through it. Let's figure it out, right? So I think it's both ways, right? So it's like a lot of times when you're trying something new, it's clumsy, right? And you can see that it's maybe not working. But I think most of the time it's like, all right, that can work. You just need to drill it more. So let's give it a week. Let's give it 10 days. See if it's even, in the realm of possibilities. And if it's not, then we'll shift gears. But usually they're little things. It's like, all right, you run behind well, but you keep getting your elbow trapped. So let's go ahead in the hole, right? Like with Shapiro. It's just like your run around is good, but the guy keeps hitting the twist out, or the Syracuse, whatever you want to call it, right? When you're running around behind him. So slip your head in the hole and see if that'll secure takedowns for you, right? And I think that's what he did against Iowa in the consies there. So
Yeah.
worked, right? So but yeah.
It's interesting to me that you say that, because these things, and don't get me wrong, you are getting high level athletes, but there was a time that Cornell wasn't always getting the highest level of athlete, right? Maybe not, probably a little bit before you got there, but what do you do with a guy that doesn't pick it up? Because there are like Foca seems like a guy to me that just seems a little hard-headed sometimes. Is polite.
No, he's not hard-headed. I mean, I think Foca, he gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, but no, I guess what you're saying, like if somebody doesn't pick it up, then you fall back to your basics, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we're always hitting our basic drills. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like what everybody does, and I truly believe that. You know what I mean? Like you got to be able to hand fight. You got to be able to get to your number one, control tie. You got to be able to fire off your high C's. You got to be able to post. You got to be able to swing. You got to be able to down block, reattack. Like everybody's got to be able to do the basic skills that are required for high level wrestling. So if you're not,
if you can't Satia swim,
you're not going to be a masterful technician. You're just going to, you're going to be a, around a square peg round hole guy. You're just gonna make it work, right? And that's gonna be your style, which is okay, right? So, and I guess my point is we're not opposed to that. You know what I mean? Whatever's gonna get the job done for us, that's great, right? Whatever's gonna get the job for you done, get the job done on the mat for you. We're gonna support that, and we're gonna find something that works for you, right? And that's really what our coaches believe in, is finding ways to get things done. And we have a lot of different styles, right? Donnie's got some really good stuff from control ties and things like that, right?
He was gnarly on top too, huh?
Yeah, he's great on top. Kellen, great on top as well. He's got a heck of a knee pull. You know what I mean? Like the wrist ups and the drags and the two steps. That's kind of the stuff that I helped Yanni with when he was young in his career, right? So, and then obviously you have one of the most creative guys on the planet, in Yanni, who's working with our guys a ton, right? On the RTC side. So there's a ton of folks that are going to find something for you, is what we like to say, right?
Yeah.
When do you decide that the basics don't work anymore and just go be you?
With like Shapiro, or whomever.
Just in general, yeah. Of like, all right, let's do the basics, and then all right, forget the basics, just go do you.
No, like sometimes you gotta tell guys to do that, right? And I guess when you decide, it's when it looks hard.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, when it looks laborious.
When it looks hard, it's like, all right, you're doing too much. Do less. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
In the sense of when you're not having fun and you're not flowing and you're not like for Meyer, it's the perfect hybrid, right? Of being able to do the basics, which lead to, some type of, I guess like fantastic technique, right? And then from it's just, you got to be able to get your legs away and certain things like that, right? So I think the mesh, right? But when it's just one way and it looks like it's hard, I guess, is the only thing I have for it. When it looks like it's like you're stuck in the mud and everything is sticking, then maybe that's when you need to do it. And same with Foca, right? It's like, hey, basics are good, but your whip over is there and it's okay, hit it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Even if you hit it and you don't get the turn, you don't get the back points. Now go to your sprawl afterwards or whatever it might be, right? I think that meshing the basic stuff with what makes you unique is really important. And that's one thing that we'll never do is try to, we're only here to enhance your style. What you've done before you got to college rather, you're probably pretty good at it.
Yeah. It got you here. I mean,
That's it, right? Like you've been doing this for a long time. This is your stuff. I love your stuff. Let's add this. In this position here, this one position, you're garbage here. So we're gonna fix it, right? Then now you're good to go, right? So I think that's what's really important is just the idea of making additions as opposed to forcing you to wrestle in my space. And
yeah,
like this is how we wrestle here. It's like, no, that's
yeah,
the honest thing I've heard.
yeah, because we've seen that go bad. Like guys, like think about Damian. Like Damian was as prolific offensively as you could think of coming out
It
of
was
high school.
dynamic. It was very, very, very dynamic. He wrestled from the outside,
Yeah,
those singles, and then he
shut it down. And
did
he
fight
was,
in college,
I
right?
mean, when he went to Minnesota, it was just like let's hand fight all day.
Yeah,
And
but
I
then
was,
and you look at his most successful, when he was winning his titles, and I mean the whole time when he was wrestling his best, he meshed him, right, and that's it.
yes,
Meshing what's made you great with what we'll say the status quo of your new program is, like kind of what that program does well.
sure. No, and I'm not here to like rag
No,
on J Rob, right? Like, I mean,
I mean,
but
and All-Americans,
yeah, it's
and
funny you say
All-American, and this is back.
Lawrence, dude. Lawrence was such a Jory Volk fan. Like, obviously, he's a Pinnacle kid,
Yeah,
but like Jory Volk knocked Davis out of the tournament,
yeah,
and like being next to Lawrence when he was watching that
that,
record be preserved and
yeah.
having his kid do it, it was really kind of cool. It was special. But yeah, okay, I want to get back to recruiting. So we talked about the kind of symptoms or indicators of understanding and looking at progress. Are there red flags? What are the red flags that you come across in a recruiting process that make you go, oh, maybe not this guy.
I mean, for us, it's not. I mean, it's not a red flag with I guess behavior, but for us, if your grades aren't good enough, you can't come, right?
Right.
So that's a big red flag for us. It's like, hey, we love you. I think you have what it takes, but you can't get into school, right? So that's a big thing for us. No, I mean, the one thing that I think we do a good job of is recognizing when a kid is unique and has personality, right? But is still a good kid.
Mm,
And I think that's the Jersey in me in a
mm,
good way, right? It's just like,
mm,
no, he's just, he's a little shithead, which is okay.
yeah.
We can fix that. You know what I mean? He's going to get around the team and he's going to fall in line. He is a good kid. He's just, might be a little selfish right now, but he's the best kid on his team. And he goes to a club and it's just the way it is. Right.
Mm,
Do a really good job of making sure those kids get what they need and getting tough love, but also getting a lot of just, love in general. It's like, hey, we're here for you. We're going to support you. You'll have what you need. But you're going to fall in line. Right. So I think tough love is something that helps those guys, but red flags in general. I don't know if you're getting in trouble with the law, obviously that's a problem. I
good
mean,
to know. Good to know.
yeah, no. And it's just, I understand people make mistakes and things, but if you're doing that when you're 18 years old, I don't really need to. There's a lot of kids out there, I guess is my point, right?
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So how has you so I was with you when you got the job.
Yeah.
We were in, where were we?
Guatemala.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember sitting down talking to you going, lots going to change, Michael. And
It was spinning, I bet.
yeah. And you were having like, I remember you having like 15 different conversations at once, whether it be with a kid, with another coach, with someone on the phone, texting someone. And I just remember going, oh, this dude's he's going to be like this for a while. So
until I got my staff. It was rough.
Yeah, I bet. But let me ask you this. What was the thing that you were not prepared for?
What I was not prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing, like when I was an assistant coach, and I still I like to make lists, right, and check those lists off. Everything you do as a head coach, there's no finality to it. It's just ongoing. You know what I mean? Because there's such big groups, so it's like recruiting. You're never checking that off. Marketing and promotion of your program and/or camps, right? That's you're always you finish camp season, but you're always looking to the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling, and that's the thing that was the easiest. So that was pretty easy for me in that regard, right? But I think that just the fact that there was everything was ongoing at all times, right? That was the thing I struggled with the most, because your inbox just never stopped, right? And it was just like, let me try to finish or try to answer all these emails. Answer all these emails at once, and it's not going to happen, man.
It just doesn't. Yeah, that does not exist. You will be there for a month,
right? So it's not like one thing, I guess. It was just the idea of having a different role. You know what I mean? Like, and understanding that and coming to grips with that, and understanding that there's certain things you need to do, and I also realized that maybe my routines were good, right? But they weren't from 10,000 feet. They were 3 feet. You know what I mean?
You were boots on the ground, and then you have to step back.
And you gotta, I wouldn't say be the, hold the strings, right? The puppet master, but you need to.
Yeah, but it sounds like a negative thing, but it's a positive thing.
But yes, but no, you do, but it has negative connotations, right? But no, you have to manage. You're a manager, right? You are a CEO, and that's a big thing. And that's the one thing I will say that Cole prepared all of us guys for that, right? Myself, Holland, Vito, Nickerson, Spates, obviously, Coach Smith is he came from Cornell as well, right? Rob prepared us well. He really, really did, right?
Do you still speak to him? Like, did you reach back out to him about some of this stuff?
When I first got a job, yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Absolutely. No, I think a lot of the programs have similar infrastructure, we'll say, and then from there you branch off and the pillars of success, or whatever you want to call them, right? Your ethics or morals of the program, whatever, they might be a little different, everybody, right? I think that the foundation for a lot of the programs are similar from what Rob did, right? And he taught us how to be CEO leaders, which is really important. Just coming to practice, they don't cut it no more, brother. You know what I mean? So, and if you want to have a successful program, you can't do that.
No, it's getting to the point where it's impossible. Like, like if we're going to be honest, right? Like, it's really hard to make it work if you just want to be a wrestling coach, because that's just, there's way more to it now.
Well, and if you want to do that, then unfortunately you're going to fail.
Yeah. And that's an interesting place to be. All right. So Rob Cole has kind of, and I'm not just going to harp on Cole right now, but he's kind of been regarded as one of the best and one of the first really CEO type head coaches in college wrestling. He was one of the first to really treat it like an administrative position.
I think he's the godfather of it, for sure, right?
Right? Am I crazy for saying that?
Oh, and I think that, this is no disrespect to other lineages, right? Like the Smith or Gable lineages, but Rob prepared us better than those trees.
I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
I would tend to,
like I said, and there's successful coaches from those trees as well, right? Look at Papalizio; he's doing a hell of a job, right? and others I'm sure I'm missing, right? But I just think as a whole that we are doing a hell of a job, and I think that we were well prepared from Rob.
So while I'm sure you were well prepared, and I'm sure Damian was well prepared, and I'm sure Nickerson was well prepared, but being the guy that steps in directly for him comes with a little bit of extra pressure. Did you feel that?
Absolutely. I still feel it.
Yeah.
Right. Because, no, I mean, like, and especially when I went to the school too, right?
Yeah.
The pressure, onus of trying to maintain the tradition of excellence is a big thing. Right. And I think that's why I'm happy and proud of the finishes we've had the last couple of years, because we want to hold the standard. We want to grow the standard. Right. And that's really important. That's really important.
Does this finish? Because Rob's never finished better than second. So does this finish get that monkey off your back? Like, hey, there has been zero drop off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it does. I think having, I guess, like Shapiro, somebody that I recruited, right? And there, I mean, I've recruited all the kids, right? But as the head coach, right? As the head coach, having
yeah, I'd almost argue that you had more to do with Vito going there than anyone else, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all, it doesn't matter. We got him here, right? So
yeah.
we're winning with him, right? But no, I mean, I think that's just how I'm wired. You know what I mean? I want to succeed. I want to, continue. And I think maybe it's less about Cole and more about just being, prideful and, wanting to preserve, the history that I helped make as well as a student athlete. Right? We took second when I was my junior year and senior year. We took second, right, in 10 and 11, right? So for me, it's personal, because it's not just a job. I went to school here. I put the C on my chest. I have the C tattooed on my arm. It's a part of me. This year, I will be in Ithaca longer than I was in New Jersey, right? So I'm officially a New Yorker. But no, I mean, I think that's something that gets lost with the current landscape in college athletics.
Sure.
It's moving and shaking, and don't get me wrong, obviously I need to support my family. That's important, right? But I love Cornell. I do, right? And having the success we've had gives me a lot of pride. Gives me a lot of pride, not only as a head coach, but as an alumnus of the school.
Joel, do you want to jump in? Because sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, do you think it was easier or harder to take over a program that you grew up in, that you were assistant coach in, and obviously had a lot of success, while you were there?
I think there's two sides to it, right? I think that I think there's a lot of pressure I put on myself because I know the standard and I want to succeed. But I think it was easier in the sense that I knew everybody. Right. Maybe I didn't have this as close relationships with everybody, but it's not like I went to this new school and now they're throwing donors on me and I'm trying to meet these people and raise money and figure it all out. They all watched me on the mat, right? They saw me, succeed with the Cornell singlet, on. So those people loved me already. Right. And it was just about, and I knew them. I knew who the big players were. I just didn't have a great relationship with them. And it was my job to build a good relationship and a great rapport. Right. And then that's what we've done. That's what we've done the last, 3 years or whatnot. Right. So, but no, I think it's both, right? There's, like I said, it means a lot to me because I graduated from here. So that portion of it makes you really want to succeed. But, on the other side of it, building relationships is a lot easier because they know me.
Did you ever run into any issues where you wanted to do something and people were like, well, that's not how Rob did it?
Yeah. I mean, at first, now it is what it is. It's the way we do things now. And it's the way we do things now.
Hey, so I could literally sit here and talk to you all day, but here I got two that I need to get out.
Okay.
What changed in the Crookham match between match 2 and match 3?
Training and health.
Okay, so he was banged up. He got healthier. That's one thing.
Well, he did what? He didn't train.
Oh, really?
And he trained for 2 weeks or 10 days or however long it was for
So he's been that banged up.
I mean, he's been in the room drilling and stuff, but like good hard training with Yanni and you know, full tilt and just sticking your face in there and getting after it, throwing each other in the walls and getting heated. Not like that. So
Oh, wow.
he was able to train, you know, and you know, the NCAAs was big for him because he realized that he wasn't gonna hurt himself or have future damage or anything like that. He saw that he could get in there and scrap, and that was the difference.
Oh, that's great. So he all it was he just needed to just crack some skulls for 10 days.
Well, he needed to know that he'd be okay.
Yeah.
And as soon as he knew that, he was like, okay, let's go. And he locked in and went out there and got after it.
It got ugly. It got ugly there for a second. So that's interesting. Okay. That was a far more simple answer than I was expecting, but a far better answer. And it really makes me happy.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay. I got to get this next one out. And this is not going to be as easy. Because I've always said going from like 20th to 10th it is fairly easy, or at least it looks like it from the outside. Going from 10th to a trophy is really hard. Going from a trophy to first is probably the most difficult thing right now.
Well, especially with Penn State, right?
Yeah. You gave it a name. So how do you go from second to first? Because it's not easy.
You keep doing what you're doing, and it's not the answer you want to hear, but it's the truth.
I don't know, man. It's
You'll continue to recruit well. You believe in the guys you recruit, you know, and obviously they're going to continue to get really good guys, and you got to coach your guys up. You got to provide them with a program and, you know, a culture that's going to, you know, allow them to feel like they're loved and they're getting everything they need emotionally. And then from there, you need to give them the full experience, right? Academically, athletically. And with that, you hope that they max out their potential and their growth. And you need the years and the classes to match up to where you put the best team you ever had on the mat, healthy. Like this year, we thought we were going to have the greatest team in Cornell history. And everybody agreed with that, right? You have Greg Unger, right? You have Vito, you have Cornella healthy, you have you know, Fernandez, you have Shapiro, Ramirez, you got Foca at 74, you got John Lowe at 84, you got Cardenas, and then you got Fernandez, right? With Foca at 74 and Lowe at 84, you could say that you have maybe a national finalist. You know, you never know, right? That's why they wrestle. Maybe a national champ at 74, and you have high All-American at 84, right? And that team does, you know, scores a lot of points. Right? As it is right now, we relied on our bonus points. We scored 19 and a half bonus points.
That's wild.
We were half a point off from another national champion in bonus.
That's wild. It's funny that you say that because we were
wondering how we did it. Yeah.
Well, yes, but like it's conversations like this that like I bring this back to my high school athletes, and I'm like, dude, you got to get a fall on the back end. Like you got to get a fall on the back end.
And we did it at Easterns too. I mean, we at Easterns we beat Lehigh by 6. There's a lot of bonus points.
Yeah.
Right? whole lot of bonus points was the difference. So we bonused a lot this year, right? And then obviously Shapiro, other than his 2 matches against Cardenas, all bonus.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's
wild.
Cardenas pinned Little in the Conti quarters. Bonus, fantastic.
Yeah.
Boca had 2 techs in a major, right? So we just bonused a ton.
It's wild. That's
Meyer,
awesome.
Pyro had 2 pins in the tournament. He had 2 pins all year.
Huh.
He matched his pin count in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's a good place to do it.
You got to show up, right? You got to show up and you got to show out.
He's a gamer. For sure he's a gamer.
You knew he was going to wrestle his best.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Meyer, and this is the thing about this is the reason why we are, I believe, the best freestyle nation in the world. The college grind makes your mental toughness, mental, fortitude unbelievable, right?
Sure.
Because, Shapiro faltered in Vegas, right? And you don't know what you know until you know it. Right? It's the truth, right? And he didn't have
What was picking up the pieces from that like?
It was just, just being in there for him and hadn't lost in 4.5 years.
That's what I'm saying to you. Like,
yeah. And I just busting his chops. Well, you got to find tougher guys to wrestle then. Right. But no, so just picking them up from that and just, it's stuff that everybody hears, but they just think it's not true, or they just think it's too simple, right? It's just giving them support he needs, showing him love, building them up, right? Letting them know that regardless of the outcome, we're here for him, all those types of things. And then you just build and build and build and build and build. And then, and he showed his development in NCAAs when he loses, and then has to come back and be an All-American.
And does.
And then beats Franek, and then beats Andonian, and then avenges his loss to Cardenas, right? Brandon did a heck of a job.
Unbelievable.
So, but no, that's it. And then, other guys as well, right? Foca had a tough bout in the first one, and then wrestled all the way back to round 12 and beat the kid from Columbia that he lost to 3 times during the year. He tech followed him in 2 minutes, right? So we unlocked some things mentally during the year that was used in the tournament, which I was really happy to see. And I think that I'll tell our guys, I think we underperformed, right? We underperformed and took second in the country. That's pretty damn good.
I'll take it. Okay. Got to bring it on home. So we like to ask quick questions of coaches. And so you fire off an answer as soon as it comes to your brain. What's the best wrestling shoe ever made?
Best wrestling shoe, Addy Stars.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I don't think we've ever had that one, Joel.
I just like it. I wore it in high school.
Okay. All right. What year?
The Kendall ones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually have a pair.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't know if I can wear them anymore. They're like dry rotted and shoe gooed but they do look good.
Something different. Not best, but it's unique, right? So
no, they were good. All right, here are the rules. It has to be Americans only, and you only get 4. Who is on your Mount Rushmore?
John Smith. I think he's the GOAT because he won 6 consecutive. He did lose, but that was the rules back then. He won 6 consecutive. JB, obviously, total medal count. He's in there. Kale, athlete and coach.
Kale.
The 4th one, you can go a lot of ways here. You can go Pat Smith because he was the first to win 4, and being the first is challenging, right? You could go Dake. He won 4 at 4 different weight classes, right? Which is really, really impressive.
But we got to hold you to 1.
No, I'm just talking it out.
All right, my bad. Sorry, don't get chesty with me.
Honestly, I think you can go with David Taylor as well because he does this thing here in the Olympics or in the trials in the Olympics, he's a GOAT for sure too, right? I mean, shit.
Mhm.
So, I have affection in my heart for those who were the first to win 4. So
Okay.
I'll go with Pat.
All right. There is, see, that's a high school New Jersey ref. Never mind. Anyway, I think we all get it. All right. Last one. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport of wrestling, what would it be?
Well, I mean, this is on brand right now, but we got to fix the challenges.
Oh.
Oh God. The finals were pitiful.
It was bad. Like, dude, I was sitting there, like, I'm in the arena looking at my watch, going, if you're watching a broadcast of this,
Not good.
you're getting 14 minutes of wrestling in an hour and 17 minutes. It was, by the way, that was an hour and 17 minutes.
Did it, I'm sure. The Richie Figs and Nyala, that challenge was pitiful. What was that, 10 minutes?
Yeah. Terrible.
This is Bowen. And then Vito's match was just bad as well. So
yeah, that's nonsense. All right,
yeah,
that's a solid one though.
How you do it? I don't know if you do away with them and just go back to where it was, or you put a time limit on it, or I don't know. But I guess that's not for me to figure out. But no, we got to do something about that. We got to figure something out because rate of play.
Yeah.
Like hustle.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. There's got to be skin in the game. It's enough. No more, oh, you lose the challenge. You lose a point.
Yeah. Something. He gets a point.
I don't care. Like, oh, you lose your break, so you can't challenge again. It doesn't matter. The challenge is probably not going to win anyway. You lose it. You know what I mean? Like, we got to go to freestyle in that regard. It seems like work ourselves towards freestyle as much as possible. I agree because the rule set is really good, but with the challenges, that's the best way to
incentivize.
Yes. Incentivize not just throwing it. You know what I mean? Or not saving breaks. Like, oh, we got 3. Might as well use them for dating.
Yeah.
And hey, I would have done the same thing. So
no, I'm not hating. It is.
If I had bricks and like he had his foot, he didn't have his foot, I'm throwing the brick too. So yeah. I'm right there with you there. So you know what I mean? I'm not throwing stones. I would have done the same thing, but I just think that we need to figure something out. That's it.
Understood.
For rate of play.
Joel Shaw, anything else before we get going?
All good. Take it home. All
right, man. Mike Gregg, you're the best, man. I appreciate you.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the Athletor Podcast. What do you want to know with the top guest? Mike now with the project. What you want to know, man? What you want to know? Welcome to the Athletor Podcast. What do you want to know with the top guest? Mike now with the project. What you want to know, man?